This is the FMCG podcast. We speak with the leaders of today and hear their advice on how you can develop your leadership potential. Today, we're joined by Stewart McGuckin of VFC, and we're talking all things tasty and meat-free chicken. Stay tuned to find out how to lead with a mission at the core, how to develop rapid proof of concept in innovation, and what habits are essential for you to develop as an FMCG leader. Let's get to it. Hi, good morning. My name's Rich and we're Consumer Hub, and we focus on FMCG recruitment across marketing, innovation and sales. And this is the FMCG podcast where we speak with the leaders of today and hear insights into their category expertise and also their leadership. So really excited today to have Stewart McGuckin on the show, and he's going to be talking all about what he's doing at the moment with VFC. I'm not going to kind of spoil the show and tell you exactly what VFC is. I'd like Stewart to give us the deets on that. But Stewart, just quick intro from you. Tell us, who are you? What are you doing at the moment with VFC? And just give us a quick shape of your career so far, if that's all right, for the guys watching and listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So Stewart McGuckin, I am the commercial director at VFC. VFC is short for vegan fried chicken. The clues in the name. Our mission is to fight and eventually put an end to factory farming. We believe that animals are sentient beings and have rights, and ultimately we believe the best way of shifting people's behaviours is by and through amazing, feel-good, great-tasting food. So simple mission, an incredibly important one, particularly within the climate change battle that we're facing as well. That I'm absolutely sort of honoured to be part of. So I've been with VFC since the end of last year, beginning of this year. Prior to that, I was at Go Superfoods, a great superfood wholesale and retail company, where I spent 4 years helping the business develop their retail offering. Before that, I was at Two Sisters Food Group, where I led the Goodfellas and frozen pizza business marketing teams. And prior to that, I spent the first 10, 11 years at Nestle, working through sales, marketing and category. An amazing start to my career, but moving from big businesses right down to now startup, I feel I'm in my natural place.
Nice. That's exciting. And are you from Yorkshire originally? Because you obviously, work around Yorkshire companies, Stuart, but you don't sound like your accent's from Yorkshire. Where'd you hail from originally?
So I'm a proud Scot, as you can tell from my accent, but grew up after moving down from Glasgow as a baby, I grew up in Kent and spent the first 21, 22 years of my life in Maidstone in Kent, and then moved to York after university. I was only supposed to be in York for a few months actually. Same. Before joining the army. Same. But got a £6 an hour temp job at Nestle, and 11 years later, or now 17 years later, York is now my home.
That's great. So you've seen the light twice then, Yorkshire and then veganism. So you've had two revelations and what's good for you.
Absolutely, and I'm a happier and better man for it.
Thanks for that intro to you. It's just really interesting. But just for the guys watching, can you just take us through VFC, the story of where the business has come from, and also just kind of who are the key people in the company? And you touched on the mission already, but if you could just kind of move into expanding a bit more on the mission, that'd be really interesting for us to understand.
Yeah, no problem. VFC, fascinating backstory, but incredibly inspiring. So it's the brainchild of two incredible guys, Matthew Glover and Adam Lyons. Adam is a successful restaurateur in York. He had great success and was at the forefront of bringing vegan food onto menus in York. One of his best-selling dishes on his menu was vegan fried chicken. Matthew Glover, who co-founded Veganuary with his wife, was a frequent customer because he loves the food that Adam was making. When lockdown struck in March 2020, obviously most companies had to close, including Adam's restaurant. Matthew was missing his favourite dish and contacted Adam to see how he was doing and how he was coping in those sort of incredibly difficult times. And then happened to say that he was missing VFC, or vegan fried chicken. Adam had been working with a local charity to use his restaurant to feed local families who needed support, and said, yeah, I'm in the kitchen, I'll make you some. And so anyway, he made some vegan fried chicken up and sent it out by DPD with some dry ice, and Matthew received it the next day and went, Adam, we've got to talk. And that was last summer 2020. The business was officially founded in September last year, and then we launched in December 2020. So it was a whistle stop and whirlwind tour from just an initial I'm missing my favorite food to launching a business. So
when did you join, Stuart? Were you there right at the beginning of last September, or?
No, I started helping the team at the end of November, December last year, and then have been working incredibly hard in partnership with the guys ever since, really. So yeah, been having just the most it's been, well, it feels a lot longer, but I think it's 10 months we've been trading now.
Yeah,
just less, and things are going from strength to strength. So from a people perspective, we've got Matthew and Adam as the co-founders, and then I was brought in to help establish the business and put the plans in place for us to grow. Dave Sparrow has since joined us as our FCO and operations director, and we're starting to build out our team. Alison Riley's joined us as head of marketing. We have a sales manager starting next month. Head of supply chain Jamie Seal joined us a few weeks ago, and so we're bringing brilliant FMCG people into the business, and really investing to provide us the best platform for world domination, which is our ambition.
Yeah, well, we've got our product review of VFC landing soon, which will release before people watch this podcast. So hopefully, if you're listening and watching this, you've seen me eat the products already, and they are really good. As someone who tries a lot of different things all the time, most of the time I like it because I love food, but this was exceptional. So yeah, very excited. But just tell us a bit about the product, because it's kind of common theme in the startups that we speak with, that the products will go from concept to first iteration, and you're constantly improving it. If you're not, you tend to fall by the wayside. So how have you, as a business, in the last year, sort of developed that product concept and refined it? And are you able to share a little bit into the technology behind it and kind of what it's made of? Because people are always really interested in that, especially something that is a protein alternative. The kind of science behind it's fascinating to a lot of people, if you're able to share.
Yeah, I mean, there's science, there's magic, and there's a little bit of pragmatism involved. So as any business founder or product developer will tell you. So Adam was making a seitan based, which is effectively wheat gluten, a wheat gluten flour mixed with spices, herbs, seasonings into a dough, and then formed and breaded and fried to make the product. For the first 9 months of our life, we were making VFC like that in Adam's restaurant kitchen.
Amazing.
So he repurposed his 45 cover restaurant into a food factory. But the issue we had, and we learned very quickly, was the capacity. The amount that we could make out of Adam's kitchen was nowhere near enough to satisfy the demands of the customers who were getting in touch with us. So we started, and I spent the first 6 months of working with VFC trying to find a contract manufacturing partner who could make our product. Now, with that extra capacity and also the technology that these co-manufacturers had, it allowed us to look at our existing products and work out what we needed to do to improve it. And two main things were appearance and texture. So working, and Adam led this, he's the VFC products expert, him working with the co-manufacturer that we've decided to work with and their technical teams. We've been able to utilize their technology to deliver against our recipe. So we've moved from using a wheat gluten sort of main constituent to textured plant proteins, which allows and delivers more of the meat-like texture that you expect from meat alternatives. So without getting into maybe some of the more proprietary information, that gives you a bit more of a feel. What people expect is mock meats which look like, taste like, and feel like real meats, and ultimately we're trying to bring people on a journey who see viable alternatives to animal-based products, but who maybe not finding it easy to give those products up. So that was the insight and what led to the product development project.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah. And where do you guys kind of get your insights from? Is it sort of kind of very grassroots, chatting to people that come through the restaurant, chatting to your neighbours and friends, or have you worked with insights agencies? Kind of what's kind of informed that process? Because it is it's difficult, isn't it? Because you go on this journey, but you want to be sort of sense checking your data, don't you? And you kind of what's informing that process.
I think what's really great about working for a startup is you have to be creative, because we're very well funded, but we're still having to be really sensible with how we spend the money we have. So as I said, necessity breeds innovation. So we have got through people we know and the internet, we've had access to lots of data and insights, but we've also got a huge following and been able to develop a huge consumer following in the first few months, bigger than Birdseye, as an example, in the first 6 weeks on Instagram. So we've got a really great and involved and motivated following that we use through our social channels, through email marketing, through just running ad hoc focus groups, to asking them to validate ideas, validate concepts, give us their ideas, what they'd like to see. For example, we were looking at product names for the retail launch, and we asked our followers which they think that we should have gone with. So as I said, FMCG background, we like our data, we like our insights, we like to validate everything, but budget and time constraints means that sometimes just going to people and asking them and using that follower base allows us to get to just as good endpoints and conclusions as months and tens of thousands of pounds would allow us to.
That's fascinating. Yeah, and that point you make there about the engaged following, and comparing it to some of the big names. I mean, lots of big FMCG brands would kill to have that kind of interaction with their following. And I was chatting to an insights manager once, and he said that it's very easy to get bogged down by the data and the stats and the charts and the presentations, but really what you're always asking is, what's the story and where am I within that story? And if you can get that without shelling out tons for qual surveys, because your engaged audience is your kind of continuous qual survey. I mean, that's mecca, isn't it? That's it's great.
And it's not just the money, it's time. It's from when I started in my career to where we are now. If you're not reacting or taking advantage of an opportunity or dealing with an issue within hours, then you're failing. Whereas back at the start of my career, it was days, weeks, and often months that you had. So you've got to be reactive, and you've got to take advantage of the mines of information that you've got, or insight whenever you can.
Just kind of picking up on that point around building followership. I know something that really interests me about the VFC concept when we were kind of came across you guys 3-4 months ago, is that you had a D2C model. So before you kind of landed in retail, actually people could get a slice of the action. Just tell me about that and how you kind of came up with that concept, how you launched so quickly. Because the website, I know you've moved into mainstream retail, but the D2C website was really, really slick. It was great and ranged, kind of easy to buy, products look great. How did you kind of get that landed and launched so quickly? And within that, kind of what was the benefit to you guys?
Well, I joined at the point where a lot of that had been done, so I can't take credit for that. But Matthew and Adam worked with really, really good third-party agencies. So VFC from a brand positioning and a branding perspective is one of the best brands that I've ever worked with, and I've worked with the likes of Kit Kat and Goodfellas and some amazing confectionery brands. It is just incredible, and the team at Elmwood, or what is now Born Ugly, does an incredible job working with Matthew and Adam to get to that point in a matter of weeks. Just fantastic. And then working with Engage on the website. But back to the strategy, it was all about validating the concepts, and there were various ways that we could have done that, but D2C allowed us to build at scale quickly a view of, are we in the right place, are we doing the right things, and do we need to course correct, rather than sort of going straight after retail. So the guys made absolutely the right decision to use D2C as a means to, one, focus all of the PR and communications and the social media, which was always going to be central to our marketing plans, to actually then have sales data off the back of it to validate the selling stories and the sells that we were taking to retailers around the world in the new year. And we launched on the 20th of December, and by about the 7th or 8th of January we had £100,000 worth of sales on the books, and we sat and looked at each other and went, we've got something here. Yeah. And we were and from that we had the major retailers coming to us asking to talk to us about VFC, rather than the other way around, which is incredibly risky, because you're just a concept with high levels of risk versus something that is slightly de-risked because it's an ongoing and already ongoing and successful concern. So that's the premise. D2C was never the long-term route to market for VFC. It allowed us to prove the concept, test and learn, and ultimately achieve the critical mass to allow us to go and talk to the large food service and retail chains of the world.
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. Well, where are you up to in that transition into mainstream retail now? Is it launched? Is it kind of imminent?
Yeah, so we've successfully completed our first production run. I say first production run. We're producing every day, every week since the beginning of September. We launch into Tesco from the 1st of November.
Yeah,
we are launching into the US and Canada as we speak, and we have agreed contracts with exclusive distributors in about 25 other markets around Europe, the Middle East, Asia, Australasia, and South Africa. So we've hit the ground running. It's just keeping up with that demand. But as I said, since before Christmas, I've been inundated. The business development side of my role has been fairly straightforward because there hasn't been a lot of cold calling required. But we've received some amazing support from the big retailers, Tesco, Asda, and Sainsbury's, and you'll see us hopefully rolling out into Asda and Sainsbury's in the new year. But the buyers and their teams have been incredibly supportive and helped us a lot in making sure that we were ready and fit for purpose when they were ready to put us onto their fixtures.
Yeah, that's great, and it must be very affirming as a commercial lead to have your BD is kind of triaging inbound rather than going out constantly knocking doors. That must be great.
Well, I've been the sales prevention manager for the last 8 or 9 months, so it's nice to be able to sell. But it's been an incredible journey and incredibly exciting, and to work for a great team. I mean, our social media is just incredible. We're trying to sort of turn conventions on their head, really, about how we do things. We're an activist brand. So again, looking back at who VFC are, we're an activist brand that happens to sell food rather than a brand with an activist streak, paying lip service to ESG, CSR, whatever the corporate priorities are at the time. We don't really care about that. We just want to save animals. Our number one business metric is number of chickens saved, and you can see that counter on our website.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
is the
So that is very different. Yeah. Well, that
that's
just brings me on to my next question, because it is a crowded space, and it has become in the last few years. Meat alternatives, and you guys are standing out massively. You kind of alluded to there, but I mean, how do you stand out? I think I know what you're going to say, but I mean, I think people will be interested in that, because like you said there, it is a very, very different proposition to lots of the other stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, from a marketing perspective, we've got a real clarity of vision and mission, and our communication is very single-minded. You know exactly who we are and what we do on every piece of marketing collateral that we put out. So that's good. But at the very heart of what VFC is and what we do is a single-mindedness about our reason for being. So we are honest, and we're determined, and as a result of that, we're transparent, and people might not agree or even like what we do, but they can't argue or question what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So so that runs right through every piece of our marketing. It's something that I'm incredibly proud to be part of. I only turned vegan in January, and mine is very much environmentally led, with 2 young children. I want to leave a world for them, but I'm still incredibly passionate about saving animals, and a byproduct of that is to improve our environmental impact. So what are personally and as a business, we're all aligned on what we're trying to do. And then from a business metrics perspective, the first number that we report on is number of chickens saved, because again, that keeps us focused. But from a commercial perspective, the more chickens we've saved means we've sold more products, more volume, made more money, reinvested that into building and distributing the brand to sell more volume and create the virtuous circle. So there is some method in our madness, but at the very heart of what we're here isn't about making money. It's about saving animals to benefit them and the world around us. So yeah, it's just a single-minded business mission executed brilliantly, and therefore we can't help but stand out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, start with the mission, kind of building the strategy around that, as opposed to let's do vegan because it's on trend. Which exactly. I think, if I'm honest, that is how a broad variety of people approach it. I'm not saying that they're disingenuous or have a lack of interest, but there are some brands that I can think of out there in that space that they just strike me as brands which they're there primarily because they want to strategically own that space because it might grow and they don't want to miss out. And it's kind of like I think it's similar to the legacy motor industry where electric is seen as a kind of insurance policy, not a driving part of the kind of commercial product development proposition. And you can spot the difference, can't you, between the companies that have the kind of the mission at the core of the innovation, the companies that do it as an insurance policy. And certainly with VFC, there's no getting away from it, is it? Like you say, very, very clear when you go on the website. This is what you're about, lovers or haters. Like, this is us. So kind of we're telling you, we're upfront about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been in those other businesses, and I've done that to future proof and lock out other companies. And you can tell that it's been done to pay lip service, or because they feel they have to, rather than with any real passion or energy behind it. And you can tell in the marketing, and you can tell in the sales plans behind it. So to be part of a team and to be sort of personally invested, emotionally invested into what we're doing, it's just a complete eye-opener for me, on a personal development perspective, to really care about what you do, as opposed to doing something because you're being paid to do it. It's you have those conversations growing up. I want to do something I care about, but 17 years into my career, I can generally say I'm now doing something I really care about, and the passion and the energy that comes from that makes for a more successful me, and hopefully a more successful business off the back of it.
Yeah. So I can just touch on that mission then. So how do how do you get people who are maybe just borderline flexitarian, want to eat, they're not antagonistic, they're on a journey, but how do you get people that are kind of, have half an eye to what you're doing to be more engaged? Like what's the kind of what's needed as a lever to pull those people in? Because I can imagine, if you think about it from an insight perspective, you've got your core engaged audience, then you've got people that kind of casual users, and then you've got people for whom it's interesting but there's no real pull. Like how do you move people up that kind of buying hierarchy into the core guys that are not just buying the product but also they're going and basically preaching your mission as well?
Yeah, well, preaching the mission, I mean, obviously we want to see a world free of intensive animal farming, but it's a journey. So I'll go back to what we are as a brand. We're an activist brand that sells great foods. We're a brand that thinks that we can turn the dial over time by delivering great tasting feel good foods. And who doesn't like great tasting feel good food? Whether you're an animal activist or whether you're a current carnivore but is considering reducing their meat intake. So we're looking to bring people and engage them with our brands, of course, and take them on a journey with us. But it starts with great food and a great product, and that's absolutely critical to our business. You can have the best brand in the world, and we'll all have engaged with them through our lives, but the product hasn't delivered. It doesn't matter how good the story is, you don't go back. So we are equally focused on developing and delivering great tasting, great quality products which are relevant to people's lives. Now, we've started with vegan junk food, in effect, albeit the nutritionals are pretty good, but our MPD pipeline sees us moving into other areas to drive relevance for consumers in different parts of their diet. So I mean, long story short, that's how great. What is a brand? It's a product with a compelling story, and both of them are as equally important, and we've got both nailed.
Right. That's really interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I'm not a vegan, and I kind of I like a lot of vegan stuff, and the thing that I know pulls me into it is the taste. If somebody nails the taste, I don't care, I'm there. And I tried your products last week. They're really, really good. So I've got a bag of popcorn gear to try with the kids on Friday. So I'm excited to see what they make of it. I'll definitely let you know.
Please do. It's I mean, that's in a nutshell what we're about. An activist brand with a clear mission that develops and delivers brilliant tasting meat alternatives.
How do you this might be a cheeky question, but competitors, and there's some good ones actually that also have an informed mission. I'm just thinking of I'm just going to say this is a brand that we follow, and I think they have a very interesting kind of story as well. It's chefs, and it seems like they that they have a kind of a passion for mission right at the core of the concept. How would you see your interaction in that space with the brands? Do you see them as competitors? Do you see them as collaborators? Is the line blurred? Like, how do you sort of approach differentiating and telling a conversation with those other guys in the same space?
I know we're all part of the same team.
Yeah.
Again, we're back to how many animals are we saving, and if that's us or that's our friends, other businesses doing it, then we're happy. Again, from a pragmatic perspective, when you look at category management and category development, the more you grow the pie, the category, bringing more people in more often and spending more, then you all benefit. So we support and talk regularly with what other people might call our competitors. Ultimately, are our teammates in the category to help grow the category and ultimately benefit consumers, customers, and animals, which is what we're here to do. So no, it's again coming from my previous lives, where it was always looking at what your competitors are doing and trying to preempt and block them. No, it's a complete opposite, and it's taken some getting used to, I'm not going to lie, but it's a much better way of working, and one which is breeds innovation and ultimately leads to more success for everyone.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I can appreciate that. how the mentality shift feels, partly because when we started Consumer Hub, we decided we weren't going to try and compete with the big corporates, because we couldn't really compete on who we were, but we aren't corporate and we've got this personality. But we do quite a lot of collaborations with the smaller recruiters that, it sounds a bit corny and changing recruitment, but I'm not sure you can change recruitment. Again, it's about matching great people with great opportunities. But if you see other guys out there that have really strong ethics and you think they're treating people right, then actually, if you grow the reputation of the whole industry, everyone benefits. And everyone has a kind of more painless experience of recruitment. So we're kind of always happy to promote the recruiters if we think they have a brand alignment, because we don't think we're missing anything. If they grow the perception of the industry positively, then we win. So there's absolutely no reason for us to see them as competition. So I totally get that. I really like that approach as well, because it takes guts. It takes and it's very difficult, and it's actually very, very unusual. And when people do it, it stands out as well. So you do get the kudos, don't you? People kind of stand up and take no. But just on that point, then, kind of, where do you see next? Then, what do you think are some of for people kind of think about this from an insights perspective or category perspective, that just kind of want to pick your brains? What do you think are some of the next kind of wave trends coming through in vegan and meat alternatives?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because it's the whole category is growing at such pace. There's huge venture capital investment and some incredibly intelligent people looking at cultured meats, looking at even better technologies to deliver an even more meat-like experience. But I think that the biggest trend is just more people entering the category and trying products and liking them or not liking them, but challenging back. And the watershed moment is with retailers. More and more space is being given within the mainstream grocers to plant-based and meat alternatives and the category as a whole. And as a result of that, it's more visible, more consumers are coming in to try it. Veganuary goes from strength to strength to bring more and more people in. Obviously, COP26 in the next few months and the work that needs to be done to tackle climate change diet will be a big part of that and the environmental impact of it. So I think there's a technological advance, there's a societal, and then there's an industry advance, which all comes together to make it more visible, more available, and then ultimately more opportunity for people to buy into the category, which will drive more innovation and the virtuous circle around it. So I think that's my view. I don't think it's any one thing that's going to be a game changer. I think it's just more people trying and trialing the category, which will deliver more opportunity through more space in retailers to drive more innovation, and then that virtuous circle around it.
Yeah. I think the kind of what you're describing there, I always think about it in terms of the background music to category success. You know in the film, don't you, when the music changes, you're entering a new phase. And certainly it feels like the music shifted a lot in the last year coming out of lockdown, and there is a big awareness and interest in Joe Public things like COP, I think. Just touching on that point, it's a big thing actually in the moment, that the grocer last week that had their environmental issue, and lots of it was dedicated to how do we address the issue of greenwashing, how do we address the issue of lip service. And I think most people are genuine in their desire to be more green, but it's easy to be tempted, isn't it, to do the minimum, and actually to not really look at the kind of end-to-end supply chain impact of what we're doing, and whether it's really making the whole system better. Like, as a business that has mission at the focus of it, how do you ensure that your sort of view on the environmental impact of VFC is important, as well as the mission for saving animals as well? Like, how do you, because it feels like it's one of those things where it's kind of easy to keep focused on one key area of the mission, but sometimes kind of keeping track of a few things it's quite hard. Like, but you guys seem like you're nailing that. Kind of, how do you ensure you keep a couple of kind of key kind of mission points in focus at all times, so that you don't just kind of get lost in the wool?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's not a binary choice. So if it's just all about animals and we're taking our eye off our ESG, our environmental impact, actually no, our mission is the more we reduce intensive animal agriculture, the better the impact on the environment of the food choices we make, because it's just a truism. I think the last data, I think beef was, in the teens in terms of, or animal agriculture is in the teens in terms of total carbon emission. So the more that we can reduce the amount of animals being reared and slaughtered, ergo the more carbon we can take out of the world. So for us, it's about saving animals, but there are secondary benefits to that, of which, in reducing our environmental impact is one. Now, as a business, what we're doing is life cycle analysis. We partner with Mondra to analyze the farm to fork impact of our products. And with our new product, we did it for our first version, and we're just going through the process to reevaluate for version 2, and we will get the results and then automatically and immediately put a plan in place to reduce that impact. And we will be very open with consumers through both our packaging and on our website as to how we're doing and what we're doing to improve. And again, it's not just paying lip service, it's because we care and it's the right thing to do. Plus, consumers are interested in it, and they're holding the brands and businesses that they buy their products from to account, to help them reduce their impact. So it's a job that businesses, consumers, and government need to do together in order to reduce our impact. But it's got to be taken seriously, and this is where commerce can be a force for good, and VFC is a great example of it.
It's really interesting. So it sounds like kind of integrating those different streams into the core mission is the key there. Like you were saying, the thing that stands out from what you just said is that it's not binary, which I think is really interesting. Just kind of moving on to leadership as a topic, Stewart. I mean, it's been really interesting hearing about the VFC story, and you obviously gone on a journey and kind of dropped into that at a certain point. For people that are thinking about developing their own FMCG career, most people that I speak to in recruitment, they want to develop leadership as a quality. What would you kind of have as advice for sales and marketing talent looking to shape themselves into the next generation of leaders? What do you think are really important character qualities, soft skills that need to be developed to actually create the space in their careers to do exciting things like you're doing now, where you are leading something that's really exciting?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question, and one I often think about. And for me, I look at my career and how I've got to here is, one, I've been prepared to take risks and move when maybe not moving up, but moving backwards in some instances in order to progress my career. So it's taking a long-term view. Softer skills and what I'd passionately advocate is, don't be afraid to fail, because it's where you learn the most, and providing you learn from that failure, then you don't do it again, and it improves the likelihood of success going forward. And I've failed a lot in my career, both in my actions and in some of the plans I've put in place, but I've learned from every single one of them, and ultimately, while it's tough to take, I've always come out stronger because of it. So don't be afraid to take risks, don't be afraid to fail, and then be true to yourself. It's very easy within some companies to play the politics game, but ultimately it drains you. You're not being yourself. So be yourself and be true to yourself, and it allows the qualities and the potential that every single one of us has to come through, because you're doing it for the right reasons. So they're the few things that I hold true for me, which I didn't necessarily know at the beginning of my career, but which I've learned over time and which have held me in good stead.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. Thank you for explaining that. For someone looking at your, LinkedIn profile, they're a commercial exec, they're now, 4 or 5 years into their career, and they're thinking, okay, this guy's really interesting. He's done marketing, he's done sales, now he's a commercial director. What does the role of the commercial director look like in a startup? Because I imagine you wear lots of different hats and it looks like different things on different days. But if you could just sum it up, just give us an insight into what it's really like on the inside, day to day.
Oh, day to day, I'd love to say it was the same today as it was. So today we've just taken receipt of our amazing new food truck. So we're doing a test event. So I'm going to go and help the guys make some products and put my penny on. To tomorrow, I've got a meeting with a major UK retailer, and then I'm traveling down to a trade show in London for the weekend, Friday and Saturday. To next week, I'm flying to Germany for a trial with a co-manufacturer. To then having PDP meetings with my team and seeing what they're doing. So no, and this is why it's such an incredible job, and to be in such an incredible business. No one day is the same, but the looking after marketing, looking after sales, the category, very nascent stage of our category thinking, but ultimately being an insight and consumer-led business when it comes to our marketing plans. The best, being able to draw upon that experience from earlier on in my career has been absolutely invaluable, because I know what I need to do, and therefore I plan. I have a to-do list and I work through it, but I also always have a couple of hours spare each day it's basically called reactionary time, to deal with stuff which just comes up. So I'd love to say that it was like back in my Nestle and Two Sisters, it was a very formulaic day. It's nothing like that, and that's why I absolutely love it, because the opportunity to turn your hand to lots of different things, from finance to operations to technical to sales to marketing to HR, is just incredible. So long story to your short question, what's a commercial director within a startup? It's just probably like an FCO and a CEO and a supply chain manager. You just do what needs to be done with a slight focus on what's this leading to in terms of getting more people aware of the brand and more customers prepared to stock it.
Yeah, right. No, that's great. That's really, really interesting. I mean, you touched on a point there, which is really interesting. Slack. I mean, it's something that I've heard mentioned in lots of talks I've listened to and conversations like this with leaders. Great leaders, they build in Slack into their system, into their work systems, and that's obviously something that you've kind of like developed as a working habit. Are there any habits that you think people need to cultivate along with those soft skills and qualities to be a leader?
A lot of the habits come from those sort of innate skills, but ultimately it's getting to the point where when you're working, and when you're not, you're not. So I think that's what a balance I've worked incredibly hard to try and get. In the last 12 months within the startup, I've probably lost, because I've had to just be on call. But rest is an incredibly important habit to get into, both physically and mentally, in order to be at your best when you're working. So that's something that I encourage. When you're off, you're off. And it's something I tell my team: when you're working, you're working. So that as a habit. Another habit: plan. Plan the work the plan was something I took from my Nestle days, and then plan in time to deal with stuff which none of us have a crystal ball. We can't foresee, and again, that's not failure, not knowing what's going to happen today, tomorrow, next month, but plan in time to be able to react to it while still having time there to work the plan that you've spent a lot of time cultivating.
That's really interesting. And just finally, any books, kind of podcast resources that you'd recommend people listen to? Obviously, the FMCG podcast is going to be first on the list. Anything else?
I don't listen to anything else, Richard. No, I mean, I don't read an awful lot of industry and management type books, because I generally feel the best way to learn is to do and to expose yourself. I read a lot of fiction, and you can actually pick up a lot from that.
What are you reading at the moment?
Pardon?
Is there anything that you're reading at the moment, fiction-wise, that's ticking the box?
Well, actually, I've just contradicted myself, because the book I'm reading at the moment is the Michael Parkinson autobiography, which is a brilliant book. But
I love biography.
Classic fiction to modern fiction, anything that I pick up, I just immerse myself in, and reading is a great way of sort of getting your head out of that workspace. But no, so there's nothing in particular. There's a few good Spotify. I think it's View from the Founder. It's an American-based podcast series where they talk to founders of sort of like unicorn type businesses. There's a great one with the guy, forget his name, that founded Chipotle in the States.
Oh yeah.
Definitely recommend that. Another book which really resonated with me that I would recommend, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is a great book. And Good is the New Cool. It's a really good book. If not, maybe shows some of the cynicism in the world, but also that there are businesses out there that have a genuine, honest mission at the heart of what they do. So there's 2 books I would recommend anyone to read.
Right. No, thank you for that. Well, look, thanks so much for sharing the VFC story, your insights into category, and also your insights into leadership. I've really appreciated it. I've learned a lot. And thanks for your time. And guys, if you've watched, if you've enjoyed, if you listened, if you enjoyed, drop Stewart a note, let him know. I know guys that come on the show really appreciate that, because it's them invested in you. And also, more importantly, go and follow VFC. Check out the social, buy the products, give them a follow and like, and spread the message, spread the mission.
Thank you.
Smashing. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Check out the playlist here for more content like this. Click the donuts to subscribe so you never miss an update, and give us a like and a comment so we know what content you'd like to see from us. See you next time.